Well, I'm at the Kansas Public Library, and instead of just whining, I thought I'd do something different. I'm gonna do a book review of The Shining. I've already got my next two Stephen King books, The Outsider, but what I'm gonna read first is the sequel to The Shining, Doctor Sleep. Now, Distronia said, "Here's Johnny." Was that even in the book? And I thought to myself, no, I don't think that is in the book. But just to be sure, I went ahead and read the book, and no, it's not in there. What he does say a lot is, take your medicine. Now, what's the medicine? It's a roque mallet. What's a roque mallet? Well, it's like a croquet mallet that really super means business. That's what it is. And this is not a doctor. This is not a medicine that's prescribed by doctors, typically. There's no conditions that are well treated by the roque mallet. Anyway, I was just thinking, the job of being the caretaker of the Overlook Hotel is actually a really sweet gig, and if it was offered to me right now, I would not hesitate to take it. For a number of reasons. I don't have a son with fucking telepathic and precognitive abilities, also known as the Shine. So, all I'd really have to contend with is ghosts trying to scare me, but not really being able to hurt me. And that would really just kind of spice things up at the Overlook. Because, I mean, being a caretaker of a huge hotel might get boring if there aren't things actively trying to terrify you. But I gotta tell you something. I'm terrify resistant. I've seen some shit, man. I've been, like I've mentioned, I've been going this last 8 years in this reality I don't fucking understand, and I was this atheist skeptic. Then I see reality going wonky in ways it shouldn't. And I'm just like, la-di-da. I think I'd be fine with ghosts. But you know what else I would do if I was the caretaker of the Overlook? I would set a little timer for releasing the boiler pressure. Because if there's a thing that, if you forget it, it blows up the entire motherfucking hotel, set an alarm. That was Jack's main, I don't know, his main mistake. I mean, the whole going crazy, trying to kill your family, whatever. You're still doing your job as caretaker, sort of. Actually, no, he wasn't. He kept saying, this woman and child don't understand that I have to take care of my responsibilities. But he's going bashing holes in the wall with a fucking rope mallet. So that's kind of the opposite of taking care of the hotel. One thing that really bothers me in books and movies is rates of change not being accurate. For instance, Jack and the, summertime caretaker are having a conversation, and this is when he's telling him that the pressure on the boiler creeps up on you. And he said, see, while we were talking, it just went from 99 to 102. And I'm like, well, I know how quickly people speak, and so it's only about 3 minutes of dialogue and 3 ppsi increase. So the intervals at which he drains the boiler are too long. It'd be getting up to like 160, 170 in that time. He left it unattended for more than 12 hours, and that's more than enough for it to increase, enough to blow up the hotel. I'm just saying, Stephen King, do your math. There's one thing I hate about movies, too. It's like, they'll be like, oh no, it's only 8 minutes until everything fucking explodes. And then there's like 17 minutes of action, and I'm like, I know you're doing that to dial up the suspense, but I know how long time is, so could you make it a little more realistic? Like, if you say 9 minutes, have there be 9 minutes, and then the bad thing happens. Don't fuck me around, movies. You do it too much. All of you. Now, in the book, all 3 of the Torrances are blonde. But in The Shining, the movie, all 3 characters are not blonde. Tisk tisk. Jack Nicholson, not blonde. The woman who plays Wendy, I forget her name, but she actually was a pretty good representation of the character. Just sort of like a perpetual martyr. But I guess that would be the wife of an alcoholic in general. What I liked about The Shining is that in the first 15 pages, just from the interview with the guy who gives him the job, Ullman, you can tell from what he's thinking that he's a very sinful character. Very prideful, has a bad temper, makes excuses for his drinking, gets mad when people call him on it. So, like, you're just thinking, just in the first 15 pages, like, man, I hope this guy doesn't go to a haunted hotel that tries to drive him crazy, because he is easy fucking pickings for that shit. And then you go on to read the rest of the book and you're like, oh shit, the exact situation he shouldn't be in. Now, I read The Shining before. I was a sophomore in high school when I read it. And I thought the same thing now when I read it as I did then about the topiary animals. These are hedges shaped like animals, in case you don't know, and they move. Now, even in high school and also as an adult, I'm like, how exactly does that work? Do the topiary animals get off? Because here's the thing, it's still a tree. It's rooted to the ground with a trunk or maybe several trunks. Probably several, if it's a standard bush trimmed into an animal. So does it disconnect from those and then slowly creep up on people to freak them out? Or does it somehow move and the trunk just moves its position in the ground, leaving a furrow behind it? Or does it move in the ground and the furrow behind it fills in? You know, these are the kinds of things I think about. And then, like, if it's leaping, it's definitely got to sever that trunk. And I mean, I guess it doesn't really need that to live just for a few minutes. I mean, trees have a very slow metabolism. If it could just reconnect the trunk later. But then, if the hotel has the power to do this kind of stuff, then why does it need Jack to kill his family? Why doesn't it just, like, snip the chordae tendineae on their heart valves so that they all die of mitral prolapses, you know? I mean, I get it, it's not terrifying, but it's efficient. I mean, these are evil spirits that can apparate like 20 martinis worth of booze into existence from nowhere. So, again, why do they specifically need Jack to smash up his family with a roque mallet when it could just, you know, put some cyanide in their bloodstream? Like, if you can make like a gallon of alcohol out of nothing, you can make like 2 grams of cyanide out of nothing and put it right into their bodies, and then they're dead. Because remember, I don't know if you've read The Shining, but the whole purpose of the hotel is to kill the kid with the shining so it can be permanently evil, because his shining powers it like a battery. Although really, if they kill the kid, I mean, does the hotel know for sure that it isn't something physiological that creates the shining, and once he's dead, it goes off? That's what I would think if I was an evil hotel, but hey man, I'm not going to tell evil hotels how to do their fucking business. And it's pretty simple logic. The boy with the shining shows up, and then all the ghosts, which normally can just show people scary things but can't actually hurt them, suddenly start gaining more and more life, because this shining is like a battery powering the hotel's evil. Well, where is that power coming from? Well, I would assume, if I was an evil hotel, that it was the boy's metabolism, somehow being converted into shining energy, being absorbed by the hotel, and then being used to manifest shit like moving topiary animals that can actually bite you. And then, so if I was the hotel, I'd be like, well, what we gotta do is trap this kid, you know, and keep him well fed and give him plenty of oxygen and shit, you know, for that metabolism. And then can stay evil and powered up in the long term, at least until he grows up, grows old, and dies. Again, I mean, I guess I shouldn't tell an evil hotel how to do its business, but maybe I should. That hotel fucking blew up. If I was that evil hotel, well, I'd at least remember the fucking boiler. There's also unrealistic things like Mr. Halloran asks the boy Danny to help him with stuff out to his car. But Danny is 5 years old. Now, it's been a long time since I've, like, seen a 5-year-old. You know, I vaguely remember being a 5-year-old, and as a 5-year-old, I thought a gallon of milk was very heavy. So, I don't think a 5-year-old could help a 6-year-old man with shit out to the car. But then once they get out there, Danny gets in the car and they have this long conversation. And I'm reading this conversation, and I know roughly how long it would take, and it is way longer than any nervous mother in the 1970s is going to let her 5-year-old son talk to a 60-year-old black man in a car. Like, way longer. Now, they have time to discuss all kinds of shit about The Shining. That shit just ain't happening. You know, and I'm not saying racism would be a part. Wait, no, actually, I am. I am. Also, this Mr. Ullman, who manages the hotel, is a notorious cheapskate, and so he cuts corners on all kinds of things, but the overlook is his pride and joy. So it seems like the one thing he wouldn't overlook is the pressure release valve on the boiler, the thing which will cause the entire fucking place to explode if it's left unattended. Also, there's the story of Grady, the previous caretaker, who murdered his entire family. First of all, don't let a family stay there. Second, if Grady murdered his family and then killed himself, wouldn't the boiler have exploded then? Plot hole. Alright. I feel like that's a good review of The Shining. Have a nice day.